Hello my friends, today we're back on Luminar Neo and we're talking about the biggest software release from Luminar Neo, and that is version 1.1. I am saying the biggest software release because in this one we have portrait background removal, and also Luminar Neo is saying this is the last one of the features they will be adding to Luminar Neo to make the package complete, the program complete. So that doesn't mean that I will never add anything to it. That just means by adding this portrait background remover, they feel like this program, it's a complete program and they delivered everything they promised. I am going to show you how it works. I will choose this image first. We will go through a lot of examples. I will show you where it works, where it doesn't work, some tips and tricks. So stay until the end because you might learn a thing or two. Once you go to Edit, you will go into your layer properties, and then under masking, you will find your portrait background. Now, once you click on portrait background, Luminar Neo will analyze your image. And then once you have to choose remove over here, this button. And when you choose remove, it will just remove the background. And it did a pretty good job. Now, you have this checkerboard over here. That means that is a transparent background. There is no background. So if you want to save this image now as a PNG and use it later in your composites or whatever project you're doing, you can do that now. So you will just go to File, you will go to Export, and then you can, and then in your export, you have to choose PNG, and then make sure the Save Transparency is clicked. And now you can save it as a PNG file. You can also save it as a JPEG 2000, and here you can click the Save Transparency, and this will save it as a JPEG with a transparent background, or you can use it as a TIFF file with transparency. So now you have all these options for saving your project with transparent background for a later use. If you do not want to just go to File and go to Export, a quicker way to do it, which I like to do it, is just right click on the image and then just go to Export, and that is just a lot faster, I think. Now let's see what we can do with this transparent background. Well, since we isolated the person from the background, now we can go on our layer panel. When you have your plus sign, click on it, and then we can load a background. Let's see. I will choose this image. And as you can see, it's kind of see-through because when you import a layer into your layer panel, you will import it as a opacity 50%. So you have to increase the opacity to 100 in order to see it. And now I can see my person. Well, that's because the person, now it's on the bottom layer. So the top layer is completely covering it. What you could not do before is move the background layer on top and the layer on the bottom, but now you can do that. And now we have our person onto our image. Oops, I'm sorry, I moved the background a little bit. Hold on. Now with the person selected, I can move it around into my image. Let's say I want to put him over here, and I can make him smaller. And there you go. Now we have this businessman on the road into this foggy forest. And I think my background is still not in place where it used to be, so I'm just gonna go over here. There you go. So now we have a composite, and that is great. Now when you make a composite like this, you have to look at a few things. Number one is, does it really belong in there? Like, what is he doing there? Like, does it make sense? And then the second thing you have to look is the color. Does it blend in it? You have to have the same kind of lighting and colors. For example, if we would have a sun in the back here and he would be backlit, but then the subject itself would have been lit from the left side, let's see, front side, then it will make no sense. You'll have lighting from two different directions. The coloring is different. It just doesn't go in. So you will have to go into your person layer and adjust the colors to match your background layer, or vice versa. You have to go to your background layer and adjust the color to match your person in order to have a successful composite. Now let's take a different example, and I will choose this example. And just like before, I will go to Edit, I'll go to Layer Properties and Masking Portrait Background. Luminar Neo will analyze our image and click remove. And now it appears like we did a pretty good job, but we're missing part of the shoulder over here and a lot of the hair. And this is where the refinement brush comes in. Once you click on refinement brush, then you have 3 buttons over here: transition, object, and background. And that is represented by these 3 colors on our image. Blue represents the background, orange is for our subject, and then the transparent part, that is the transition. And how do we use this? Well, first I want to zoom in a little bit, Command plus to zoom in, and I want to bring back parts of those hairs. Hair is part of our subject, which in this case they call it object. So I click on object, and then I will just paint it with the object brush as, accurate as I can on our subject. And that will add back to our selection of the subject, will add those pieces of hair. So I'm just gonna go really quick. You should probably take your time and do a better selection. So just like that, we added those parts of the hair, and now I will also add this part of the shoulder over here that is missing. Great. Now, if you were having problems with the background and you needed to add more background, then you will click on the background and you will paint on the background part, and that will add background to that selection, just like that. And then for transition, you will click on transition, and let's say we want to bring back a little bit of the hair here. I will just paint with the transition, and that just brought too much back because now we're missing part of the hair. So I'll go back to object, and I will just paint this back to bring back some of those hairs. And there you go. Command 0 to fit the screen. Let's see what we are having now. I'll click back on properties, and this is our selection. Now let's bring in a background, and I will choose, let's see, what if we bring in this background? When you bring in a background, as you can see, it's the 50%, so we have to increase the opacity to 100% so we can clearly see the background, and then we move the background underneath layer of our subject, and there you go, now we have a composite. Now, at first glance, it looks fine, but I can tell you that it's not a fine selection, because if I go Command plus to zoom in, we are getting this kind of gray halo around our subject. And this is happening not because the selection was not good. This is happening because we had a gray background, and when your background is too close to your subject, light will bounce out from the background and get into your subject, and it will just spill that color into your subject. So this is just color from the background that is wrapping around our subject. Command 0 to fit to screen. So the way we will fix this, we will have to choose a background that matches or as closely as possibly with our old background. So if I go now and choose this background, for example, I'll increase it to 100%, and I'll put it underneath my subject. Well, this background has a more of a gray tone, and this matches so much better with my gray background that I originally have. So if I go Command plus now and look at my edges, I do not see those gray edges anymore. Not because they're not there, they're still there, but because I had gray edges and now I have a grayish background. It is just camouflaged, and now we do not see them, and it appears that we have a perfect selection even though we do not. So it's very important when you change your backgrounds, don't completely change it to something completely different. Try to stay within that tonal range. That way it will really hide those mistakes, or, in this case, the color from the background. You will see this a lot more clearly if I choose a very dark background, because it will be so much more apparent, those edges. Let's choose this background. I will increase it to 100%. And I'll move it under our subject. And now you can really see the halos around the hair especially. Not so much on the arm, but let's see if I go Command plus to zoom in. They are still there, and we can still see them all around. So just make sure, like I said, choose a background that is close to the one you initially had. Let's do a couple of more examples. This one will be very apparent when I use something like this because the color in the background is so vibrant that it will really spill onto our subject. So if I go now to masking and portrait background, we'll just do this really quick. Remove. You will see, you will find our subject, but because it's a very contrasty image with clear background, you missed a few parts which you can fix, you know, with your brush. Just go around and refine those. I'm not gonna do that right now. We're just looking at this edge. And if I put, let's say, a red background behind it. By the way, now when you import the background, it doesn't stretch like it did before, but now you have this image mapping. You can fit to your screen, you can fill the screen or stretch it. So now that we fill the screen with this background and I move it behind, then you can really see the orange that is built in our background, and that is pretty much impossible to correct at this time on Luminar Neo. I'll go back to catalog. Let's take a different example and I will show you a couple of things that you can do. Which example should we take this time? Maybe we'll take let's take this other example. This is another very studio shot that is a white background. So it should be really easy for the program to make a mask and remove the background. And then we'll choose a couple of examples where it's not so easy for the program to find it. We'll use a more busy background and I will show you how it works on that. So we'll go to portrait background and click on remove. And now Neo, it does its job and it removed the background. And let's choose a pretty background for this one. Maybe, let's see, I can choose, we can put her into a virtual building over here. As you see, the background does not completely fill the screen. So I'll click on fill and that will fix the problem. I'll increase the opacity at 100% and move it up behind the subject. And now we have this person that is in this building. She is way too big. So with your person selected, go and, you know, make her smaller to, you know, properly fit in our image. So there you go. We put this person into this building and now we have a composite. The light is not perfect, but you can work on that and we'll make a different video on how to, you know, better make composites with better color matching. Let's go to a more difficult image and I will choose one that does not have a studio shot. By the way, I watch a few videos that has been out there about this new update and everybody seems to be using studio shots where the background, it's completely, you know, one color, even lit, so it makes it really, really easy to select it. But I would like to see more busy background where the background is closer to your subject colors, and let's see how that works then. So in this image, I have this person, it's a fall image, and if I go to edit and go to layer properties, and then I'll go to masking and portrait background, I'll click remove. And Luminar Neo, it did a decent job. Now we do have some gray areas around here, but let's see how we will deal with that in this particular image. Let's add a background. I am going to go first with just this, you know, wooden plank background. I'm going to increase the opacity at 100% and move it underneath. And as we can see, the haloing, it's really apparent. So this background, in this case, it would not work for this image. Let's choose a different one. I am going through my images and I am choosing maybe this background. I'll fill it, the screen, increase it to 100%, and I really like this one. It's a soft, oops, I'm sorry. It's a nice soft background and I'll move it underneath our subject. Well, The colors work really well for this one, but we still see that gray and there. And I could go with a brush and just basically tell it that that's a background, or just use you don't have to just use the background remover adjustment brushes. You can just go into your masking and use just a normal brush. You can click erase, make sure you're in your person, and go to Command plus to really zoom in. And now with your erase brush, let's see, brush and erase, you can go in and really, clean these fuzzy parts over here. And that is one way to fix it. You see, we're getting rid of a lot of those. I feel like this is going to be a problem for a lot of beginners, getting rid of these halos. It's not the easiest thing. On programs like Affinity and Photoshop, there's many ways to get rid of it, that it's a lot easier. But for now with this program, let's see. Command plus, I did not remove all of them. I just took the ones from the top, and you can see the difference. We still have the gray fuzzies over here, and the top part, it's cleared up. Maybe, let's say we want to change the background a little bit more. Let's see what we can do. Well, here's what I like. I like to composite all kinds of backgrounds that, maybe I don't have the perfect background. How do we make a perfect background? Well, let's say I will add my orange background. I'll fill the screen with it, increase the opacity to 100%, and I'll move it underneath my subject. And now we just have a plain background. How do we make it more interesting? Well, I can go and pick a different background. Let's say I want something like this, and I will fill the screen with it, increase it to 100%, and move it under my subject. And that's a very pretty background too that goes with this image. Now I can change my background by changing this layer blending mode to soft light. And now what's happening, this layer, it's interacting with my orange layer. So I can choose soft light, I can choose overlay, and I'll get all kinds of different style of images. I can go to screen and I can use that. So let's say a soft light. I can even go onto my orange layer and reduce the opacity a little bit of that one. And now on my orange layer, it's interacting with the layer below it, because the orange layer, it's at 68%. That means we're seeing a little bit of this layer as well. We can even add another layer on top of that. Let's see. Maybe we want a red layer. And I will fill the screen opacity at 100%. I'll put it under my person. And now we have a red background, but by changing maybe to soft light, now our red layer, it's interacting with all the layers underneath, and we can reduce the opacity of this layer and make it kind of match the scarf. Maybe something like that. And then we can also put layers on top of our subject. Let's say we go back and choose another one of those orange layers, which you guys know I use a lot. I'll fill it to screen 100%, and now it's on top of our subject. How do we make this interact with the whole image? Well, we change the blending mode maybe to soft light, and now we have an orange tone all over our image, kind of puts it all together and makes it, blend a little bit better. And then of course we can take a brush and erase maybe with 50% from the skin, just so her face doesn't look so orange. And now the face has some of that orange tone, but not all of it, so she doesn't look too orange. But the background is really working now with our subject, and it looks more like it belongs. It's not so much of a composite. So this is the image we started with, by the way. This is what we got to. This is the before, this is the after. Of course, it's too much. The colors are maybe too saturated. I'm just showing you using all these layers, and you can just keep on adding and adding. Let's say I want to add a sun flare. The cool thing is about the sun flare, now I can add it behind my subject. So I can fill the screen and move this underneath my subject. And now I can move it, change the blending mode to screen. And now we have this big sun flare that could be behind our subject. Make it even bigger if I want to. There you go. And we can play with this forever. Just keep adding layer, keep, working on it until we end up with something we love. This is our before, this is the after. And this is really to show you the techniques on how it works and how you can work with it to, make it go a little bit better. Now, where I am disappointed with this program is for the average person that does not know how to edit photos and is just hoping for that one button background replacement. This program does not work so great for it. If you go to an image like this, let's say this is a picture that anybody could take, and then you will go to layer properties and go to masking, portrait background, and remove. Now you're probably not going to be happy with this selection, and just adding a background, you will see it just does not look right. So you really have to know how to use your editing program, and otherwise this feature is not going to be any good to you. I'm going to go, if you have a couple, for example, and it's a busy background, let's go to layer properties, masking, portrait background, and remove. You will see it just does not do a great job. So unless you really know how to work with it, you will have all sorts of problems. And this becomes very apparent when you completely change the background. I hope this makes sense. It just does not look right. The selections are not that great. And can you work with it? Yes, but it does take a lot of work. And yeah, I don't know what to say about this new update. I'm happy they added. I feel like it could be useful, but for average person that does not know a lot about editing, I don't know how they are going to use this. It's not going to be so easy for them to use this, I'm trying to say, because it does requires a lot of extra steps to, you see, it's like a really bad selection. And to refine this, it will take some skills, and sometimes it's just, you cannot fix it. That's all I wanted to show you for now. I will keep working on this and see if I can find some better tips and tricks to help you out. This is just a quick overview of the new update. And yep, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Skyler Ewing, and I will see you in my next video.